Hey Goblin, you've been really practicing those war drums.
I'll bring the generic Goblin noise!
This video is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc. with free weekly content and free shipping on orders over $150. You can save 5% site-wide by using the promo code MTGMudsta. If you're looking for a direct way to help the channel, please consider joining my Patreon and becoming a member of the Generic Goblin Gang. Hey gang, and welcome back. Today's game features Mika, Max, and Eric joining us again. Mika is playing his Faldorn Dread Wolf Herald deck, keeping Lovestruck Beast, Forest, Carplusion Forest, Mountain, Delayed Blast Fireball, Arcane Signet, and a Beast Within. Max has tweaked the Averna the Chaos Bloom deck I made him, and his opening hand has Phylath World Sculptor, Reverberate, Gruul Turf, 2 forests, an island, and Terramorphic Expanse. I've brushed the dust off of Prosh and am bringing him out for a spin, keeping Doubling Season, Forest, Crop Rotation, Xenagos God of Revels, Bloodstained Mire, Priest of Titania, and a Reckless Bushwhacker. Last but not least, Eric is playing Gluntch, keeping Selesnya Sanctuary, Forbidden Orchard, Return to Nature, Rootweaver Druid, Generous Patron, Secret Rendezvous, and a Girapur Orrery. Mika wins the die roll and starts us off. He plays a land and plays Heart's Desire, the adventure side of Lovestruck Beast, to make a token, and passes. Max plays Terramorphic Expanse, passing. I draw, play a Bloodstained Mire, crack it and lose 1 for a Blood Crypt, and pass. Eric just drops a Forbidden Orchard. Mika plays a Carplusion Forest and swings the human token at me for 1. In his post-combat main phase, he plays an Arcane Signet. During his end step, Max cracks the Expanse for a Mountain. Max plays a Forest. I draw and play my own Forest, paying 2 for Priest of Titania. I pass after that. Eric plays a Selesnya Sanctuary, which comes in tapped and bounces his Forbidden Orchard. He then moves to discard and passes. Mika draws and goes to combat. The human goes at Max for 1 this time, and after that, he casts Cultivate to find a basic for the field and 1 for his hand. Max plays an island, and then plays Averna, passing. I draw and have to cast Demonic Tutor to go and find a land. I then play the land I find and pass to Eric. Eric draws and plays a Plains. He then plays a Rootweaver Druid, and Max and I take the deal immediately, which peer pressures Mika into doing it as well. Eric gets 2 forests from Max and Mika, while I give him a mountain because I'm not that nice, and after that, he passes turn. Mika draws and plays a mountain. He plays out Faldorn, and then casts Lovestruck Beast, making a 2/2 wolf token. He passes after that. Max draws and plays a forest, suspiciously leaving up all of his mana as he passes. I draw and cast a Chrome Mox, exiling Tooth and Nail. I'm then able to cast Prosh, making 6 Kobold tokens, and pass to Eric. Eric draws and plays a Sunpetal Grove. He then plays Girapur Orrery and plays a second land for turn, which is a Forbidden Orchard. He then follows up with Gluntch, and moving to his end step, Gluntch triggers, and he has himself gaining 2 treasures, Max gets to put 2 +1/+1 counters onto Averna, and Mika draws a card. I'm left out of the party, and with nothing else, he passes. Mika draws and plays a Castle Embereth, and then a mountain as his 2 lands for turn. He goes to combat and swings a Lovestruck Beast at Max, who, in response before blocks, casts a Sweet Gum Recluse. He cascades into his top card, a Soul Ring, and then blocks the beast with a 3/6 Spider. After that, Mika foretells a card and passes. Max draws and casts Phylath, making 6 plant tokens. He then plays a Gruul Turf, bouncing an island back to his hand, and then replays the island, putting 4 +1/+1 counters onto 2 different plant tokens. He follows up with a Midnight Clock and passes. I draw and play a Bloom Tender, and then cast Xenagos, but accidentally tap the Bloom Tender thinking it is haste. I then sacrifice 2 Kobolds to Prosh, and moving to combat, double his power with Xenagos. I swing Prosh at Eric, who decides not to block, and takes 14 commander damage. I pass after that. Eric draws and plays a Dictate of Karametra. With the reassurance that I won't kill him next turn, Eric then plays a Secret Rendezvous, so we both draw 3 cards. Eric then plays a Plains, and then a Temple of Plenty, scrying 1 as it comes in. He follows up with a Generous Patron, putting a +1/+1 counter onto a Kobold and Mika's human token, and getting to draw some more cards. Eric then casts an Essence Warden, followed by a Tenuous Truce, and he targets me with the Truce. He then moves to his end step, and before moving to his turn, Mika casts a Delayed Blast Fireball off Foretell, wiping away most of the board before moving to his turn. Mika draws and plays a Wand of Wonder. He then activates it and rolls an 11. He gets to cast 2 spells from among the exiled, which are Jeska's Will, Diabolic Intent, and Kadama's Reach. He chooses Jeska's Will first, getting 8 red mana and exiling his top 3. And then casts Diabolic Intent, sacrificing a wolf token, but getting to replace it anyway thanks to Faldorn. He then plays a Passionate Archaeologist, and plays a Forest from Exile, making another wolf token. He then uses his floating mana to cast his own Jeska's Will, dealing 3 to Max, and making another 8 red, and exiling another top 3. He then plays an Arcane Bombardment from Exile, dealing 6 to me, and makes a wolf token. He then plays a Spine Rock Knoll, and follows up by activating Faldorn. This has him exiling Journey to the Lost City, which he casts as well, and makes a wolf token. Moving to combat, he swings 3 wolf tokens at me, and Eric generously gives me a Spirit token from the Forbidden Orchard. I block 1 of them, but still take 4. Max draws and recasts Averna. He then plays Let the Galaxy Burn where X is 2, and cascades into an Exalted Flamer of Tzich. Mika then plays Tybalt's Trickery and targets the Let the Galaxy Burn, but Max reverberates the Let the Galaxy Burn to make sure it resolves. Arcane Bombardment then gets Cultivate, which he casts and deals 3 to Max. Max then resolves a copy of Let the Galaxy Burn, and he cascades into a Morag, and then Tybalt's Trickery flips the original spell into an Illithid Harvester, which he casts the adventure side of to sandbag the creature later. Max's Exalted Flamer of Tzich then resolves, and Max follows this stack up with an Aether Gale, bouncing the Lovestruck Beast, Journey to the Lost City, Arcane Signet, Xenagos, and Chrome Mox. Going to combat, Max swings the Sweet Glum Recluse at Mika. He then cracks his Evolving Wilds in his second main phase, hitting Mika for another 4 thanks to Morag triggering again. With nothing else, Max passes. I draw and play a Mana Confluence and a Volrath Stronghold. I then recast Chrome Mox, exiling Vexing Susher. I follow up with a Doubling Season and pass, and Eric and I get to draw a card from Tenuous Truce. Eric draws and casts a Noble Heritage, and then plays Soul Warden. He casts Gluntch, and Noble Heritage triggers, and Max takes the counters as the only one with creatures. Eric then follows up with Solitary Confinement, then a Druid of Purification, and as it enters, chooses the Wand of Wonder. Mika chooses Doubling Season, while Max chooses Arcane Bombardment, and I choose my own Doubling Season to make Mika still look scarier than I am. Moving to his end step, Eric then gets a Gluntch trigger, giving Mika 2 +1/+1 counters which he can't use, I get 2 treasure cards, and Max draws a card. Mika draws and replays his Arcane Signet, and then recasts Faldorn. He then sends the Lovestruck Beast on another adventure to make a human token, and replays Journey to the Lost City, and then the Lovestruck Beast from the exile as a creature. This has him making another wolf token, and Mika then passes turn. Max gets to return Aether Gale from the Exalted Flamer trigger, and draws. He then plays Release to the Wind on the Sweetgum Recluse and recasts it, cascading it into a Harrow and dealing 1 to Mika from the Exalted Flamer. He then plays Life of the Party. Once everyone has their token, he then casts an Atali. Max then casts the Aether Gale again, bouncing Faldorn, the Human Token, Lovestruck Beast, Druid of Purification, Solitary Confinement, and Passionate Archaeologist. Going to combat, Max then swings everything at Mika. Mika casts Beast Within and targets Morag. Mika then plays Wild Magic Surge and targets the Life of the Party, which destroys it and has Max putting an Aura Phoenix into play. Max then goes to a second combat that he'd banked off the land for turn and swings another 6 points of damage at Mika. This has Mika blocking the Exalted Flamer with his Life of the Party token, and after that, Max passes. During his end step, I cast Crop Rotation, sacrificing a forest to go and find Gaia's Cradle. I draw and play a Mana Crypt. I then recast Prosh, making 8 Kobold tokens, and then tap Gaia's Cradle for 10 mana. I follow it up with Sarkhan Vol, down ticking it to steal Eric's Life of the Party. I'm then able to Surge cast a Reckless Bushwhacker, giving all of my creatures +1/+0 in haste. I then play my own Beast Within and blow up Gluntch. I then recast Xenagos. Going to combat, I put my Xenagos trigger on Prosh and swing it at Eric, while the Bushwhacker and Kobolds go at Max, and my Lives of the Party go at Mika. Max blocks his Beast on my Bushwhacker, and the rest of his creatures eat the Kobolds, and before taking damage, Eric casts Generous Gift on Prosh to save himself. I also break the Tenuous Truce, but still manage to kill Mika, and after that, I pass. Eric draws and plays a Plains. He replays Gluntch again, and the Noble Heritage triggers, but neither Max nor I take the deal. Eric does put 2+1/+1 counters onto Gluntch still, and then casts Druid of Purification. It enters, and he targets my Mana Crypt. Max plays nice and targets Xenagos, and I return the favor by choosing Xenagos as well. Eric then replays Solitary Confinement, and swings the Life of the Party at Sarkhan. With Sarkhan down, Eric then moves to his end step, drawing a card for himself while giving Max 2 treasures and giving me 2+1/+1 counters onto a creature. Max gets Harrow back randomly from the Flamer and draws for turn. He then plays Temple of Mystery, which comes in tapped and scries 1. And then casts a Crystal Shard. He swings the Aurora Phoenix and Atali at me, and Atali triggers, flipping Skyshroud Claim, a Forest, and Throes of Chaos. Max casts the Throws and cascades into a Layla, and Averna puts an Arid Mesa into play. This has me getting pinged for 2 by the Flamer, and I then block Atali with the Elephant token that Eric had given me. In his post-combat main phase, Max then plays Karn the Betrayer and casts Harrow, dealing another 1 to me. On his end step, I cast Vampiric Tutor, taking an additional 1 off the mana confluence, and then 2 to cast the tutor, and find a card to put to top before taking my turn. On my upkeep, Max's Midnight Clock goes off, and I draw for turn. I then play Corvold. One good dragon deserves another, as I follow up with Prosh again, making 10 more Kobolds. I then start sacrificing Kobolds to draw off Corvold, and play a Verdant Catacombs and a Wooded Foothills, sacrificing them for Bayou and Taiga and continuing to draw. I continue turning Kobolds into cards, before casting a Chaos Warp and targeting the Solitary Confinement. This has Eric shuffling it into his library, and he flips into a Windborn Muse, but fortunately I have the mana to pay for it. Going to combat, I put the Xenagos trigger onto Corvold and sacrifice the Life of the Party so it doesn't have to swing. I then attack Eric with Corvold, paying the 2. Eric blocks with Gluntch, but I cast Berserk to double Corvold's power to deal 82 damage to Eric in 1 hit. With Eric dead, but my defense is down. I scoop it up to max. Game review time. So that last turn with my Prossh deck, I was getting desperate. I wasn't going to be able to pull out a win with only one card that Vampiric Tutor was going to find me, so I went for the safer option of Corvold, hoping to draw into something that would help me close out the game. Unfortunately, I drew a lot of lands, and the best card was Berserk, which again only took out one opponent, and I had to make my choice. Eric's Gluntch deck he considers a group hug deck, but I think it's more of a friendly position deck that will eventually help win him by giving him a lot of opponents who don't consider him a threat. He then uses that goodwill to build up a big army, and then smash face and win. Mika did a great showing with that Faldorn deck. He has some interesting inclusions, and I love when he got to cast that free Jessica's Will to hit another Jessica's Will. Talk about value. I love Cascade, but it can be a lot to keep track of on the stack when people are responding to things and then people are responding to the responses. It can get pretty out of hand. I think we did a pretty decent job of making sure everything triggered that was supposed to trigger and didn't trigger if it wasn't supposed to trigger, but we may have lost one or two here and there. We are also aware that the lands are supposed to come into play tapped. However, this was filmed before some of our viewers pointed that out. This video wouldn't be possible without the help from my sponsors, Cool Stuff Inc., Multizone, Original Magic Art, and Alter Sleeves. But it definitely wouldn't be possible without the help from you, the viewers, and my patrons. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and to remember, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.